Sacred Geography and Pilgrimage. Part 1. The Ganges, a river with memory. The Ganges has long been more than a river to the people of India, for it is a sacred current flowing through both geography and memory. To call it a river is to name only its physical form, but to the millions who live by its banks and travel from afar to its waters, it is a goddess, a purifier, and a witness to centuries of human devotion. The Ganges is described in the Puranas and epics as descending from heaven, a celestial stream tamed by Shiva's matted locks to prevent it from destroying the world in its force. Thus, its origin is not merely hydrological but mythical, linking heaven, earth, and the underworld in a continuum. Every drop is remembered as having the power to cleanse sin, and every confluence along its course is woven into stories of gods and sages. As the river descends from the icy Himalayas, it carries with it the aura of the mountains themselves, which are regarded as abodes of the divine. To bathe in the Ganges at its source in Gangotri is seen as touching the threshold of heaven, an act that binds the pilgrim to ancient traditions of penance and renewal. In this journey, the Ganges is not just a body of water, but a timeline of memory, flowing from the Vedic hymns to the present day. The rishis, who once sat in meditation on its banks, left behind verses that still echo in the rituals performed by priests today. The river has carried empires, invasions, and revolutions along its course, yet it remains the same sanctified presence. It is both eternal and ever-changing, shaping not only the land but also the consciousness of those who revere it. Pilgrimage to the Ganges has always been an act of remembering and reconnecting. Cities like Haridwar, Varanasi, and Prayagraj are not mere urban settlements, but sacred landscapes, where the river bends and joins with other streams of myth. Haridwar is described as the gateway to the gods, where the river first enters the plains and pilgrims gather for the Kumbh Mela, one of the largest assemblies of faith on earth. In Varanasi, the Ganges is believed to wash away the fear of death, and to die there is to achieve liberation. The Ghats of Varanasi are not only steps leading into the water, but stages upon which countless lives and deaths have unfolded, and the river holds the memory of these cycles. In Prayagraj, the Triveni Sangam, where the Ganges meets the Yamuna and the invisible Saraswati, is remembered as a cosmic junction where worlds intersect. The rituals that unfold on the banks of the Ganges are testimonies to its living memory. Morning after morning, pilgrims and residents alike descend to the water to offer prayers, light lamps, and immerse themselves in the current. Ashes of the departed are poured into the river, returning them to a cycle of renewal that believers see as timeless. When the evening arti is performed, with flames raised to the sky and chants reverberating across the Ghats, it is as though the river itself breathes with memory, carrying the devotion of countless generations forward. These rituals are not fixed in one era but accumulate like sediment, each layer of devotion deposited upon the last. The Ganges also embodies memory in the way it holds contradictions. It is both a giver of life through irrigation and agriculture, and a receiver of waste from the growing modern world. To the devout, its sanctity is never diminished by pollution, for its spiritual essence is beyond material decay. This paradox shows how memory can transcend immediate reality. Pilgrims who approach the river do not see only the water before them but the accumulated sanctity of millennia. They carry within them stories from grandparents, scriptures, and songs that remind them that the Ganges has always been and will always be holy. This continuity of faith is the deeper geography of the river, a geography inscribed not on maps but in hearts. In Hindu cosmology, the Ganges is more than terrestrial. She is said to flow in heaven as the Mandakini and in the underworld as Bhagavati. This threefold existence situates the river as a cosmic connector, reminding worshippers that what they touch on earth is but one dimension of her reality. To drink from her waters or bathe in her current is to participate in a sacred memory that transcends human lifespans. Pilgrims travel vast distances to perform rites that have been performed since antiquity, believing that through this continuity, they are woven into a greater story of existence. The Ganges is not merely remembered. She is memory herself, flowing unbroken from the mythical past into the living present. The epics tell of kings and sages who sought the blessings of the Ganges to redeem themselves or their ancestors. King Bhagiratha's penance to bring the river down from heaven is retold in countless ways, making the Ganges both a gift of perseverance and a stream of grace. His story is not locked in myth, but is reenacted whenever a pilgrim prays for the release of an ancestor's soul. Thus, the river is a family archive as much as a cosmic one, a keeper of personal memories braided into the universal. The stories of the Ganges are sung in devotional songs, painted in temple walls, and inscribed in scriptures, but above all, they live in the current itself, flowing as a hymn no pen can capture fully. For centuries, empires have risen and fallen along its banks, yet the Ganges remains a witness that holds the imprints of history. The cities founded upon its shores bear marks of Buddhist monks, Mughal emperors, and colonial rulers, but above these temporal layers, the sacred narrative persists. Pilgrims who walk its ghats or sail its waters are in contact not only with a river but with a continuum of human devotion. The Ganges is like a living archive where the past is never erased but continually refreshed. Even when new temples are built or new bridges span its breadth, the river continues to carry echoes of ancient chants and the ashes of forgotten generations. Modern India, with its struggles of industrialization and environmental degradation, still turns to the Ganges as a mother. Campaigns to clean the river are not only acts of ecological urgency, but gestures of reverence, seeking to honor the sacred memory embodied in its flow. To pollute the Ganges is seen as an assault not just on water but on memory, on the shared heritage of countless devotees. Yet, even amidst these challenges, the pilgrimages continue. The lamps are floated and the chants rise, suggesting that memory is stronger than any obstacle. The Ganges is revered not because it is pure in the material sense, but because it is eternally pure in the sacred sense. In the end, the Ganges as a river with memory is both myth and reality, both water and spirit. It gathers within itself the prayers of saints, the tears of mourners, the joy of festivals, and the ashes of the departed. To step into its current is to step into a stream of remembrance that stretches beyond any individual life. Pilgrims come to it seeking liberation, solace, and continuity, and they leave with the sense that the river will carry their memory long after they are gone. The Ganges is not only India's sacred geography, but also its flowing memory, a river that never forgets. Part 2. Varanasi, the city where time dissolves. Varanasi, also known as Kashi or Benares, has for millennia been regarded as the beating heart of sacred geography in India. To walk its narrow lanes or to sit upon its ghats is to step into a place where time itself seems to vanish, where the ancient and the modern exist not as separate layers, but as one simultaneous reality. The city is said to have been founded by Shiva, making it older than history, and in the scriptures it is described as the cosmic axis, a city not bound by earthly decay. Pilgrims believe that to live and die in Varanasi is to enter a timeless zone where liberation is assured, because here the veil of temporality is thinner, and the eternal is felt as immediate. In this way, Varanasi is not merely a city, but an experience of time dissolving into eternity. The geography of Varanasi is inseparable from the Ganges, whose crescent-shaped sweep defines the city's identity. Along the river stretch over 80 ghats, steps that descend into the sacred current, where rituals unfold with unbroken continuity. At dawn, the ghats awaken to the sound of bells and chanting, as priests perform puja and pilgrims immerse themselves in the water. Each ghat holds its own memory, associated with kings, saints, or sages who once sanctified it with their presence. Dashashwamedh Ghat, where Brahma is said to have performed 10 horse sacrifices, bustles with ritual activity, while Manikarnika Ghat burns ceaselessly with funeral pyres, reminding visitors that death here is not an end but a passage to liberation. Time in Varanasi is not measured by clocks, but by rituals, by the rhythm of sunrise offerings, evening arti, and the eternal flames of cremation. The lanes of the city are labyrinths where centuries are compressed. Small shrines hide in corners, lingams are garlanded in niches along walls, and the sound of conch shells mingles with the cries of merchants. Pilgrims describe the sensation of walking through these alleys as walking through layers of time, for one may turn a corner and find oneself in a courtyard, where an ascetic sits in meditation as if untouched by the present age. The city's architecture, too, reflects this timelessness, with crumbling havelis leaning into new constructions and temples rebuilt upon ruins of older shrines. Varanasi is less about preservation than about continuity, where memory is lived rather than displayed. To be in the city is to feel that time does not progress but coils around itself, like the sacred serpent of Kundalini. The Kashi Vishwanath Temple, dedicated to Shiva as Lord of the Universe, is the central shrine around which the spiritual identity of Varanasi revolves. Though it has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times, its presence has never diminished, for pilgrims believe that Shiva himself resides there eternally. To behold the linga is to enter into direct contact with the divine, and for many, it is the culmination of a lifelong pilgrimage. Devotees move through the crowded temple complex with offerings of flowers and bilva leaves, reciting mantras that have echoed through the city for thousands of years. In this act, personal time dissolves into cosmic time, for the devotee participates in a worship that is as old as the city itself and will continue long after their own life ends. Varanasi is also a city of learning and sound, where the vibrations of mantras and music are considered part of its sacred fabric. The city has been home to countless scholars, philosophers, and poets who have contributed to the weaving of its identity as the city of light and knowledge. The recitation of the Vedas in its temples and the sound of sitar strings along the ghats carry the sense of continuity across centuries. Time here is held in sound, for each chant is both ancient and new, bridging the past and the present. To listen to the Ganga Arti, with priests lifting flaming lamps to the sky while conchas blow and drums resound, is to be drawn into a moment where time ceases to matter, replaced by the eternal rhythm of devotion. Death, which elsewhere is feared, takes on a different meaning in Varanasi. For Hindus, to die in Kashi is to break free from the cycle of birth and death, to attain moksha. The city is thus filled with hospices, where the elderly and infirm come to spend their final days, awaiting the liberating flame of the funeral pyre. Manikarnika Ghat and Harishchandra Ghat burn continuously, their fires said to have never been extinguished for centuries. Here the passage of time is marked not by calendars, but by the constancy of fire, a reminder that death is not an interruption, but a release. In this way, Varanasi dissolves the ordinary experience of time by making death itself a sacred transition, enfolding it into the rhythm of eternal existence. The mythology of the city reinforces this sense of timelessness. It is said that Varanasi is perched upon the trident of Shiva, immune to the dissolution of the universe that occurs at the end of cosmic cycles. While other cities may perish, Kashi remains, untouched by time's destruction. This belief gives pilgrims a sense that in coming to Varanasi, they enter a space beyond impermanence, a fragment of eternity made visible on earth. Even when empires have risen and fallen, when invasions and upheavals have scarred the land, the sacred core of Varanasi has endured, flowing like the Ganges herself through history without being bound by it. The presence of ascetics and wandering sadhus in the city adds to its aura of timelessness. Clad in saffron robes or smeared with ash, they embody detachment from the ordinary cycles of life. For them, Kashi is the perfect dwelling, for here renunciation meets liberation. To witness a sadhu in meditation upon the Ghats is to glimpse a life lived outside of linear time, a living presence that seems to carry echoes of ancient sages. Their presence reminds pilgrims that the city itself is a great ashram, a dwelling place for those seeking truth beyond the fleeting. In their chants, silences, and gestures, they mirror the eternal stillness that Varanasi represents. Festivals in Varanasi further heighten the sense that time dissolves. During Dev Deepawali, thousands of lamps are lit along the Ghats, transforming the river into a stream of stars. The sight collapses the distinction between sky and earth, past and present, as the city itself seems to float in a cosmic glow. During Shivaratri, devotees throng the temples through the night, offering prayers until dawn, enacting a rhythm that disregards ordinary sleep and wake cycles. These festivals are not merely calendar events, but enactments of eternity, where collective memory and devotion suspend the passage of hours. To participate in them is to dissolve into a communal timelessness, where the boundaries of self and era vanish in the glow of devotion. The modern city, with its electricity lines, honking rickshaws, and crowded bazaars, exists side by side with this sacred timelessness. Yet the modern never eclipses the ancient in Varanasi. Rather, they fuse into a seamless whole. A pilgrim may pause to buy tea from a street vendor and then turn a corner into a shrine where incense burns before a centuries-old idol. The collision of eras does not create contradiction, but harmony, reinforcing the sense that time itself has less authority here. This coexistence of the eternal and the contemporary makes Varanasi a city unlike any other, where one lives in history, but simultaneously outside of it. Varanasi, the city where time dissolves, is thus not only a geographical location, but a spiritual condition. It offers the pilgrim an experience of eternity made tangible in rituals, architecture, sound, and myth. To bathe in the Ganges, to walk its ghats, to light a lamp in its temples, or to witness its funeral fires, is to step into a stream of being where the present is inseparable from the past and future. Here, time is not linear but cyclical, not fleeting but eternal. Those who come to Varanasi come seeking release, continuity, and truth, and they leave with the sense that they have touched something beyond measure. The city remains a sacred center where geography becomes myth and time dissolves into eternity. Part 3. Mount Kailash, Shiva's secret throne. Mount Kailash rises like a cosmic axis in the remote landscapes of Tibet, a peak so striking in its solitary grandeur that it has inspired reverence for thousands of years. Unlike other mountains that draw pilgrims for their height or their danger, Kailash is not sought to be conquered. Its summit remains untouched, for to climb it would be to profane what is believed to be Shiva's own throne, the very seat of divinity in the material world. At 638 meters, It is not among the tallest mountains of the Himalayas, yet in spiritual geography it towers above all. To behold it is to enter a realm where geography merges with mythology, where the natural form of the mountain is understood as a symbol of the eternal, and where the human experience of pilgrimage becomes a journey toward the sacred beyond time. In Hindu cosmology, Mount Kailash is described as the axis mundi, the center of the universe, where heaven and earth meet. It is regarded as the earthly manifestation of Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain described in the Puranas, upon which the universe is structured. Its four faces are said to be made of crystal, ruby, gold, and lapis lazuli, reflecting the cardinal directions and symbolizing divine perfection. To imagine Shiva seated upon its summit in meditation is to envision the still point of existence itself, the silent source from which creation, preservation, and dissolution arise. Pilgrims do not approach Kailash with the thought of conquering its slopes, but of circumambulating its base, walking reverently around the throne of the Lord, participating in a ritual that dissolves ordinary time into the eternal cycle of the cosmos. The mythology surrounding Kailash is vast and deeply layered. It is said that Shiva resides there with his consort Parvati, engaged in perpetual meditation and union. Their presence makes Kailash not merely a mountain but a divine abode, a temple not built by hands, but by the very fabric of creation. Sages and saints have sung of the mountain as the point where liberation becomes accessible, for to remember Shiva at Kailash is to stand at the gateway of moksha. The epics tell that Ravana, king of Lanka, once sought to lift Mount Kailash to display his might, but was humbled when Shiva pressed him beneath the mountain with just his toe. Ravana then became an ardent devotee, composing hymns of praise while trapped under its weight. Such stories emphasize the futility of pride before the sacred, and the way Kailash humbles all who approach it, reminding them of the presence of the infinite. Pilgrimage to Kailash, known as the Kailash Parikrama or Kora, is among the most demanding yet spiritually rewarding journeys in the world. Pilgrims travel across harsh terrains, high altitudes, and thin air to reach the mountain, enduring physical hardship as an offering of devotion. The circumambulation of the mountain covers about 52 kilometers and takes several days, passing through the Dolmala Pass at over 500-600 meters. For Hindus, completing the parikrama is believed to wash away the sins of a lifetime, while performing it 108 times is said to ensure liberation itself. The act of circling Kailash is not just physical movement, but a ritual reenactment of cosmic cycles, a reminder that all existence moves around the still center where Shiva abides. Each step taken upon the rocky path becomes a prayer, each breath a hymn offered to the throne of the divine. The mountain's sanctity is not limited to Hinduism alone. For Jains, Kailash is revered as Mount Ashtapada, where the first Tirthankara, Rishabhanatha, attained liberation. For Buddhists, it is Kang Rinpoche, the precious jewel of snow, associated with the tantric deity Demchok, representing blissful union. The mountain's four great rivers, the Indus, Sutlej, Brahmaputra, and Karnali, are said to originate from its slopes, spreading life to vast regions of Asia. This makes Kailash not only a spiritual axis, but also a geographical fountain of vitality. The convergence of traditions around this one mountain highlights its unique role as a universal shrine, a place where faiths converge upon a shared recognition of the sacred. The landscape around Kailash intensifies the sense of otherworldliness. The nearby Lake Manasarovar is regarded as the highest freshwater lake of its size in the world, and its name signifies the Lake of the Mind. Pilgrims believe that bathing in its waters or even drinking a sip purifies the soul, while meditating upon its still surface allows one to glimpse the reflection of divinity. Adjacent to it lies the dark and mysterious Lake Rakshastal, associated with demons and asuras, a reminder that the sacred is always accompanied by its shadow. Together, the two lakes embody the polarity of existence, light and dark, purity and impurity, that ultimately dissolve into the higher unity represented by Kailash. Pilgrims visit both, understanding that to approach Shiva's throne is to embrace the totality of being, both its grace and its trials. The physical act of pilgrimage to Kailash has always been intertwined with the metaphorical journey of the soul. Ascetics describe the mountain as a mirror of the inner ascent, where each stage of the parikrama reflects a stage in spiritual transformation. The steep climb to Kumbh Mela, for example, symbolizes the crossing of death into rebirth, as pilgrims often leave behind tokens of attachment, such as clothing or hair, to signify shedding the old self. The descent afterward is experienced as renewal, as if the pilgrim has passed through the gates of mortality into a higher existence. In this way, the geography of Kailash becomes a map of the soul's journey, guiding the pilgrim through hardship into transcendence. What makes Kailash unique is the prohibition against climbing its summit. While other Himalayan peaks have been scaled by mountaineers, Kailash remains untouched, for to tread upon Shiva's throne is considered sacrilege. Stories tell of climbers who attempted the ascent, but were turned back by storms or misfortune, reinforcing the belief that the mountain protects its sanctity. This unscaled summit preserves the sense of mystery, keeping the mountain as a symbol of the unattainable divine. It reminds pilgrims that not all sacred things are meant to be conquered or possessed. Some must be revered from a distance, their power lying precisely in their inaccessibility. The unclimbed peak of Kailash thus stands as an enduring testament to humility before the sacred. The endurance of Kailash as a center of pilgrimage through centuries of shifting political and cultural landscapes underscores its timelessness. Though the mountain lies within Tibet and access has often been restricted, the flow of devotion toward it has never ceased. Pilgrims from India, Nepal, Bhutan, and beyond continue to dream of its slopes, seeing in its distant silhouette the very form of the divine. Even those unable to make the physical journey imagine it inwardly, meditating upon Kailash as the throne of Shiva within the heart. In this way, Kailash becomes both an external mountain and an internal presence, both geography and consciousness. The symbolism of Kailash as Shiva's throne also resonates with the idea of stillness at the center of motion. Shiva, as Mahadeva, embodies the paradox of supreme ascetic and lord of cosmic dance. Seated upon Kailash, he represents the eternal witness, unmoving yet encompassing all change. For the pilgrim, beholding the mountain is to glimpse that stillness within themselves, to find the throne of the divine in their own heart. The snow-capped peak rising above barren lands reflects the contrast of transcendence amidst the world's impermanence, and in its stark beauty pilgrims see an image of liberation itself. Festivals dedicated to Shiva often invoke Kailash as the ultimate goal of devotion. On Shivaratri, when worshippers remain awake through the night, they recall the mountain where Shiva meditates eternally. Pilgrims unable to travel to Tibet recreate the journey symbolically by circumambulating Shiva temples, imagining themselves circling Kailash. This ability of the mountain to transcend its location shows the depth of its sacred presence, for it is not limited to geography but carried in myth, ritual, and imagination. Wherever Shiva is worshipped, Kailash is present as the silent throne of the god. In the end, Mount Kailash, Shiva's secret throne, is more than a mountain. It is a symbol of the eternal axis, the unmoving source of all that is. Its snow peaks stand as silent guardians of mystery. Its surrounding lakes mirror the mind and its dualities, and its parikrama transforms the pilgrim into one who touches eternity. To approach Kailash is to accept the limits of human power and the vastness of the divine, to recognize that some truths are not to be scaled but to be circled in reverence. The mountain holds the memory of countless pilgrims, saints, and seekers, yet it remains untouched, a throne not of this world but of the timeless. Those who make the journey to Kailash, whether by foot or by imagination, carry within them a glimpse of eternity, the vision of Shiva seated upon his secret throne at the center of the universe. Part 4. Kumbh Mela, the world's largest gathering of faith. The Kumbh Mela is perhaps the most astonishing expression of sacred geography and pilgrimage in the world. A festival where myth, ritual, and human devotion converge on a scale so immense that it defies imagination. It is often described as the largest human gathering on earth, where tens of millions of pilgrims assemble along the banks of sacred rivers to bathe in waters believed to carry the essence of immortality. The Mela is not a single event, but a cycle of gatherings that rotate between 4 locations: Prayagraj, Haridwar, Nashik, and Ujjain, each tied to the myth of the gods and demons churning the cosmic ocean for the nectar of immortality. To step into the Kumbh is to enter a landscape transformed by faith, where ordinary time dissolves into mythic time and geography becomes charged with cosmic meaning. The origins of the Kumbh Mela are rooted in one of Hinduism's most enduring myths, the churning of the ocean, or Samudra Manthan. According to the legend, the gods and demons joined forces to churn the primordial ocean in search of Amrita, the nectar of immortality. As the pot of nectar emerged, a cosmic struggle ensued, and in the course of their battle, drops of the nectar fell upon 4 earthly locations: Prayagraj, Haridwar, Nashik, and Ujjain. These places were forever sanctified, imbued with the nectar's essence, and it is here that the Kumbh Mela takes place. Thus, the geography of the festival is not arbitrary, but mythically ordained, linking earthly rivers with the celestial drama of immortality. To bathe in these rivers during the Kumbh is believed to cleanse sins and break the cycle of rebirth, offering liberation to all who participate. Among the 4 locations, Prayagraj holds the highest sanctity, for it is here at the Triveni Sangam that the Ganges, Yamuna, and the invisible Saraswati meet. This confluence is described in the scriptures as a cosmic junction, where 3 rivers of myth and reality merge to form a stream that flows both in this world and beyond. To bathe here during the Kumbh is to immerse oneself in a current that unites heaven, earth, and the underworld. Haridwar, where the Ganges descends from the Himalayas into the plains, is celebrated as the gateway to the gods. Nashik, on the banks of the Godavari, recalls the journeys of Rama, while Ujjain, by the Shipra River, is linked to Shiva himself. Each location transforms into a vast pilgrimage center during the festival, drawing devotees, ascetics, and seekers from every corner of India and the world. The sheer scale of the Kumbh Mela is without parallel. In recent gatherings, more than 100 million people have participated over the course of weeks, creating temporary cities that stretch for miles along riverbanks. These cities are meticulously organized, with roads, sanitation, water supplies, medical services, and countless camps for religious orders and pilgrims. Yet beyond the logistics, what defines the Kumbh is the rhythm of faith. Pilgrims rise before dawn to join the streams of humanity moving toward the sacred waters, their voices raised in chants, their bodies painted with ash or decorated with marigolds. The act of bathing itself is simple, immersing into the river, but its significance is immense, as pilgrims believe that in that moment their sins are dissolved and they are united with the eternal. Central to the spectacle of the Kumbh are the sadhus, ascetics who embody renunciation and devotion. Among them, the Naga sadhus are most striking, unclothed, their bodies smeared with ash, their hair flowing in matted locks. They march in processions to the river, carrying tridents and chanting the names of Shiva, radiating a presence both fearsome and magnetic. Their immersion into the river is considered a sight of great merit, and pilgrims crowd to witness their entry, as if the gods themselves were descending into the waters. Other sects set up elaborate camps where discourses, rituals, and initiations are conducted, transforming the Mela into a living university of spirituality. For the pilgrim, to meet a sadhu, receive a blessing, or hear a teaching is as sacred as the act of bathing itself. The timing of the Kumbh Mela is determined by complex astrological calculations, aligning with the positions of the Sun, Moon, and Jupiter. This celestial connection reinforces the sense that the Mela is not merely an earthly gathering, but a cosmic event, synchronized with the rhythms of the universe. Pilgrims believe that bathing at the exact appointed moment, known as the Shahi Snan or royal bath, multiplies the benefits of their devotion, cleansing lifetimes of karma. These moments draw the greatest crowds, as millions converge simultaneously into the river, transforming the water into a sea of humanity. The sight of so many souls moving with one purpose, united by faith, is what gives the Kumbh its unique aura as the world's largest gathering of faith. Yet the Kumbh Mela is not only about ritual purification, but also about the preservation and renewal of tradition. Religious orders use the Mela to reaffirm their identities, debate philosophical doctrines, and initiate new members. Scholars and seekers engage in dialogues that echo the gatherings of ancient times, when sages assembled on riverbanks to recite and transmit the Vedas. The Mela thus becomes a living continuation of India's spiritual heritage, a place where ancient wisdom is rehearsed, challenged, and renewed in the present. For many pilgrims, attending the Kumbh is not simply an act of devotion, but a way of connecting with an unbroken chain of memory stretching back to mythic time. The atmosphere of the Kumbh is one of paradoxical harmony amidst chaos. The sheer density of people, the cries of vendors, the processions of saints, and the blare of loudspeakers create a cacophony, yet within it pilgrims describe a sense of peace. The very act of being part of something so immense dissolves the individual ego, merging the self into a greater whole. To walk with millions toward the river is to feel oneself carried by a tide of devotion, where distinctions of caste, class, and region momentarily blur. The rich and poor, scholar and farmer, foreigner and villager all become equals before the sacred waters, united by the belief that here lies the doorway to eternity. For those who experience it, the Kumbh Mela is also a lesson in impermanence. The vast tent cities, with their temples, shops, and homes, exist only for the duration of the festival. When the Mela ends, they are dismantled, leaving the riverbank bare once again. This cycle of creation and dissolution mirrors the cosmic rhythms celebrated in Hindu cosmology, reminding pilgrims that all forms, no matter how grand, are temporary, while the spirit endures. In this way, the geography of the Mela becomes a stage upon which the eternal play of time is enacted, and pilgrims are both actors and witnesses in its unfolding. The Kumbh has also become a symbol of India's capacity to hold diversity within unity. While it is deeply rooted in Hindu myth, the festival attracts people from around the world, scholars, photographers, and seekers, who are drawn by its sheer magnitude. For many, the Kumbh represents not only religious devotion but human devotion, the longing for transcendence that unites people across cultures. It is a living reminder that pilgrimage is not just about reaching a destination, but about entering into a rhythm of life larger than one's own. The sacred rivers, the myth of the nectar, the ritual baths, and the mass of humanity together form a tapestry of faith that is both ancient and contemporary. Modern challenges, from pollution of the rivers to pressures of urbanization, have raised questions about the sustainability of the Kumbh Mela. Yet efforts to clean the rivers and manage the crowds are themselves acts of devotion, attempts to honor the sanctity of the geography upon which the festival depends. For pilgrims, the waters remain holy regardless of their material state, for sanctity lies not in purity alone but in memory and myth. The rivers carry the story of the gods and demons, the descent of nectar, and the faith of countless generations. To step into them during the Kumbh is to step into that story, to become part of an eternal current that flows through both time and geography. In the end, the Kumbh Mela, as the world's largest gathering of faith, is more than a festival. It is a vision of humanity's capacity for devotion, of geography transformed into myth, and of time dissolved into eternity. To witness millions bathing together at dawn, their voices rising in chants as the sun gilds the river, is to glimpse a reality where the sacred is not hidden, but made visible on the grandest scale. The Kumbh is not only a pilgrimage, but a revelation of the human spirit, showing that faith can turn rivers into nectar, cities into temples, and gatherings into eternity. It endures as the living heart of sacred geography, a reminder that the search for the divine is not confined to temples or texts, but flows in the waters where humanity gathers to remember, renew, and be reborn. Part 5. Char Dham, the spiritual compass of India. The Char Dham, meaning, quote, the four abodes, is among the most revered pilgrimage circuits in India, a spiritual compass that points devotees toward the divine from the four corners of the subcontinent. Conceived in its most famous form by the great philosopher and reformer Adi Shankaracharya in the 8th century, the Char Dham unites four sacred sites into one overarching pilgrimage: Badrinath in the north, Rameswaram in the south, Dwarka in the west, and Puri in the east. Each is linked with a presiding deity, mythic tradition, and cosmic symbolism, together forming a geography of faith that encompasses the entire nation. To undertake the Char Dham Yatra is to embrace the spiritual landscape of India as a whole, moving through its rivers, oceans, mountains, and temples in search of liberation. For countless Hindus, this pilgrimage is not merely travel, but a sacred journey aligning the self with the very map of Dharma. At the northern point of this spiritual compass lies Badrinath, nestled in the Himalayas along the banks of the Alaknanda River. Dedicated to Vishnu in his form as Badrinarayan, the temple is believed to have been established by Shankaracharya himself, who recovered a black stone image of Vishnu from the river and enshrined it here. The temple, framed by snow-clad peaks and glaciers, evokes the majesty of divinity dwelling amidst the purity of the mountains. In mythology, Vishnu is said to have performed penance here, while Lakshmi shielded him as a berry tree, giving the place its name. For pilgrims, the journey to Badrinath is both arduous and transformative, for the thin air and rugged paths demand physical endurance, while the sanctity of the place lifts the soul toward transcendence. To stand before the image of Badrinarayan, garlanded and luminous, is to feel the stillness of eternity within the restless flow of time. In the south lies Rameswaram, a site that carries the memory of the Ramayana and the devotion of Rama. Here, on the island of Pamban in Tamil Nadu, Rama is believed to have worshipped Shiva before setting out to Lanka to rescue Sita. The Ramanathaswamy temple, with its vast corridors and towering gopurams, houses one of the 12 Jyotirlingas of Shiva, sanctifying the site as both Vaishnavite and Shaivite. The temple also contains 22 holy wells, whose waters are believed to purify all sins, each well having its own taste and significance. To bathe in them is to cleanse the layers of karma, preparing oneself to meet the divine. The geography of Rameswaram itself is sacred. Pilgrims still see the faint outline of Adam's bridge, or Rama's Setu, the chain of shoals said to have been built by Rama's army to cross to Lanka. Thus the land and sea alike become inscriptions of myth, making Rameswaram both a temple and a memory preserved in geography. To the west lies Dwarka, the ancient kingdom of Krishna, situated upon the shores of the Arabian Sea in Gujarat. The Dwarkadhish temple, dedicated to Krishna as the king of Dwarka, rises with its spire visible from afar, guiding pilgrims like a lighthouse of devotion. Legends tell that Krishna ruled here, establishing a city of great splendor that was later swallowed by the sea. Archaeological remains beneath the waters offshore lend weight to the memory of this sunken city, reinforcing the blending of myth and history. To walk in Dwarka is to walk in the footprints of Krishna, to remember his role as guide, charioteer, and beloved deity. The pilgrimage is not only to a temple but to a kingdom of memory, where waves still sing of the God who once dwelt there. For pilgrims, Dwarka is the western anchor of the Char Dham, a reminder that the ocean too is part of the divine geography of India. In the east lies Puri, home to the Jagannath temple, where Vishnu is worshipped in his form as Jagannath, Lord of the universe. The temple's distinctive wooden deities, Jagannath, his brother Balabhadra, and sister Subhadra, are unlike any other icons in Hinduism, emphasizing the mystery and universality of divinity. The annual Rath Yatra, when the deities are placed upon massive chariots and drawn through the streets by thousands of devotees, is among the most spectacular religious processions in the world. The sight of Jagannath rolling through the city transforms Puri into a cosmic stage, where the Lord of the universe comes forth to meet his devotees. Pilgrims see in this the ultimate accessibility of divinity, who leaves the sanctum to dwell among the people. The ocean waves of Puri also form part of the pilgrimage, for to bathe here is to be enveloped in the embrace of the East, completing the cycle of the compass. Together these four sites form a mandala of sacred geography that spans the entire land of India. Each direction carries its own mythology and symbolism, north with the Himalayas and the meditative Vishnu, south with the sea and Rama's devotion to Shiva, west with Krishna's kingdom swallowed by the waves, and east with Jagannath's cosmic procession. To undertake the Char Dham pilgrimage is to weave oneself into this mandala, aligning one's life with the spiritual compass of the land. The journey is not linear but cyclical, for the completion of one circuit leads naturally into the desire for another, reflecting the Hindu understanding of pilgrimage as both journey and renewal. The Char Dham pilgrimage is also seen as a map of life itself. Badrinath in the north represents spiritual awakening, where the Himalayas lift the mind toward higher consciousness. Rameswaram in the south signifies penance and devotion, where Rama's worship teaches humility and surrender. Dwarka in the west recalls the responsibilities of worldly life, where Krishna as king embodies Dharma in action. Puri in the east symbolizes liberation, where Jagannath as Lord of the universe dissolves all boundaries. Together they form a complete journey of the soul, from awakening to liberation. Pilgrims see in the Char Dham not merely geography, but a path of transformation, where the physical journey mirrors the inward pilgrimage of the self. Undertaking the Char Dham Yatra has traditionally been considered an act that ensures moksha, freedom from the cycle of rebirth. For centuries, saints and sages have traveled these routes, leaving behind stories of their encounters with the divine. The roads to the dhams are often difficult, involving treks through mountains or long voyages across seas, reminding pilgrims that the journey to liberation is never without challenge. Yet the hardships themselves are part of the sanctity, for they mirror the trials faced by Rama, Krishna, and countless seekers in their search for truth. The geography becomes a teacher, instructing the pilgrim through both its beauty and its difficulty. The Char Dham pilgrimage also holds a unifying power in the vast diversity of India. By linking temples across the four corners of the land, it transcends regional identities and weaves together a collective spiritual map. Pilgrims from different states, languages, and traditions meet along the way, sharing food, prayers, and stories. In this way, the Char Dham is not only a personal journey but a social one, strengthening bonds among communities through the shared rhythm of devotion. The compass of faith becomes a compass of unity, guiding millions toward a sense of belonging that transcends geography. Over time, the Char Dham has also expanded into the concept of the Himalayan Char Dham, consisting of Badrinath, Kedarnath, Yamunotri, and Gangotri, all located in Uttarakhand. While distinct from the original four dhams of Shankaracharya, this circuit reflects the same principle of encompassing sacred geography into a complete pilgrimage. Together, these different interpretations of Char Dham reveal the dynamism of Hindu pilgrimage, where geography, mythology, and devotion continually interact to create living traditions. The compass may be reinterpreted, but its central aim remains the same: to guide the soul toward liberation through sacred journey. In the modern era, with roads, railways, and technology transforming pilgrimage routes, the Char Dham continues to inspire millions. Buses now carry pilgrims through Himalayan passes, and trains connect the distant corners of the land to Puri, Dwarka, and Ramaswaram. Yet even as the modes of travel evolve, the essence of the journey remains unchanged. Pilgrims still bow before the shrines with the same reverence as their ancestors, still bathe in the rivers and seas with the same yearning for purity, and still believe that to complete the Char Dham is to align oneself with the eternal compass of Dharma. In the end, the Char Dham, as the spiritual compass of India, is more than four temples. It is a geography of liberation mapped across the land. Each site anchors a direction of existence, and together they form a mandala of faith that embraces the nation in sacred unity. To undertake this pilgrimage is to trace the divine outline of India itself, moving through its mountains, seas, rivers, and cities, and finding in each a reflection of the eternal. For those who walk this compass, the journey is both outward and inward, both geographical and spiritual, leading them at last to the realization that the four abodes are not only in the corners of the land, but within the heart itself. Part 6. Temples as Mandalas, Sacred Geometry in Stone. To walk into a great Hindu temple is to enter not merely a structure of stone, but a universe carefully constructed in geometry, symbolism, and myth. Temples in India are not only places of worship but embodiments of cosmic order, designed to mirror the structure of the universe itself. They are conceived as mandalas, sacred diagrams that map the journey from the earthly to the divine. The mandala, with its symmetry and concentric arrangement, becomes transmuted into architecture, so that every step taken inside a temple is a step through layers of existence. In this way, temples are not only homes of deities, but pathways of pilgrimage in miniature, where sacred geography is compressed into stone, and the pilgrim travels inward toward the heart of the cosmos. At the foundation of temple design lies the Vastu Purusha Mandala, a geometric diagram that serves as the blueprint for sacred space. This diagram represents the cosmic man, Vastu Purusha, whose body is inscribed into the square grid, with his head pointing east and limbs extending toward the corners. The square, symbolizing stability and order, is subdivided into smaller squares that assign places to gods, guardians, and cosmic forces. At the center lies the Brahmasthana, the space of Brahma, the axis through which divine energy flows into the temple. When architects raise a temple upon this grid, they are not simply arranging stone, but aligning earthly space with cosmic space. The temple thus becomes a crystallization of the universe, where the human body and the body of the cosmos are joined in geometry. The experience of moving through a temple is deliberately structured to echo the spiritual journey of the soul. The outer layers represent the material world, filled with carvings of daily life, mythological battles, and celestial beings. As the pilgrim proceeds inward, the carvings become subtler, the corridors narrower, and the atmosphere more silent, until finally they reach the sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagriha, or womb chamber. This innermost cell, often a dark and unadorned chamber, houses the deity in its purest form. The journey from the temple's outer gate to its inner sanctum is thus a journey from multiplicity to unity, from the outer world of appearances to the inner reality of the divine. This inward movement mirrors the mandala's concentric progression, guiding the pilgrim to the still point at the center where time dissolves into eternity. Temples also function as cosmic mountains, embodiments of Mount Meru, the axis mundi described in Hindu cosmology as the center of the universe. The towering Shikhara in North Indian temples, or the Gopuram in South Indian temples, symbolizes this cosmic ascent. Just as pilgrims climb mountains to reach the divine, they ascend symbolically through the vertical form of the temple, which rises like a mountain peak into the sky. The carvings that climb the temple walls depict gods, sages, and celestial beings arrayed in ascending hierarchies, reinforcing the sense of movement toward transcendence. To stand before such a temple is to feel the presence of the mountain of myth, rendered into stone, where the divine throne is eternally present at the summit. The geometry of temples also encodes cosmological knowledge. The ratios, measurements, and alignments are designed with astronomical precision, often orienting the temple to cardinal directions or aligning it with the solstices and equinoxes. The temple thus becomes a calendar in stone, marking the rhythms of the cosmos and connecting the worshipper to celestial cycles. In Konark's Sun Temple, for instance, the very structure is a chariot with 12 wheels, each representing a month of the year, drawn by 7 horses symbolizing the days of the week. The play of light at certain times of the year illuminates the sanctum in ways that reinforce the union of earth and sky. In these temples, sacred geometry is not abstract but experiential, for the pilgrim feels the presence of cosmic order embodied in stone and sunlight. The carvings and iconography of temples are also extensions of the mandala principle. The outer walls often teem with depictions of gods, dancers, animals, and celestial beings, embodying the fullness of creation. These figures are not random ornamentation, but deliberate placements within the cosmic diagram. Each form occupies its rightful square in the mandala, contributing to the harmony of the whole. Erotic sculptures, such as those at Khajuraho, represent the creative power of the universe, the union of opposites that underlies existence. Fierce deities stand at gateways to guard the sacred, while gentle forms adorn the inner walls, leading the pilgrim gently toward the center. The temple is thus a living mandala of stone, each carving a syllable in the cosmic hymn. In South Indian temples, the concept of the mandala extends to the entire temple complex, with vast courtyards, concentric enclosures, and monumental gateways. The pilgrim's path involves circling these layers, moving through a living mandala before reaching the sanctum. The Ranganathaswamy temple at Srirangam, for instance, is built on an island and structured in 7 concentric enclosures, each with its own gateways and shrines. Pilgrims pass through these layers in ritual circumambulation, mirroring the soul's passage through the 7 sheaths of existence toward the innermost reality. The temple thus becomes not only a building, but a cosmos one can walk through, where space itself is sanctified as a map of liberation. The mandala principle is also evident in the rituals performed within temples. Circumambulation of the sanctum, known as pradakshina, is itself a movement through the mandala, with the devotee circling the divine center while always keeping it to their right. This act reinforces the cosmic order, as if the pilgrim becomes a planet orbiting the sun of divinity. The sound of bells, the fragrance of incense, and the rhythm of chants all converge to draw the devotee inward, guiding them to the central point of stillness. In this way, the temple is not only a physical mandala but a living one, activated by ritual and sustained by devotion. Temples across India reveal variations of this sacred geometry, yet all share the underlying principle of mandala. In the Brihadiswarar temple at Thanjavur, the massive tower rises with perfect proportion, its scale overwhelming yet harmonious, embodying the grandeur of cosmic order. In the Jagannath temple at Puri, the temple's layout mirrors the cosmic body of Jagannath, making the entire structure an embodiment of the deity. In the Meenakshi temple at Madurai, the multiple gopurams and halls unfold like an endless mandala, drawing pilgrims deeper into the sacred maze. Each temple is a unique articulation of the same principle, geometry as a bridge between the human and the divine. The idea of the temple as mandala also extends beyond Hinduism, influencing Buddhist and Jain architecture. The great stupa at Sanchi, though not a temple in the strict sense, is a mandala in stone, with its circular paths of circumambulation leading devotees around the axis of enlightenment. Jain temples, such as those at Mount Abu, reveal intricate mandala designs in marble ceilings, where concentric lotus patterns draw the eye inward toward transcendence. These cross-traditional expressions demonstrate that the mandala is a universal principle of sacred architecture in India, a way of inscribing the cosmos into human space. In the modern age, temples continue to be built with mandala principles, though often with the aid of new materials and technology. The Akshardham temple in Delhi, for instance, incorporates traditional geometry with modern craftsmanship, creating a vast mandala that welcomes millions of pilgrims each year. Yet the essence remains the same. To step into the temple is to step into a map of the cosmos, to journey inward toward the center where divinity dwells. The resilience of this principle across centuries reveals its power as a universal language of the sacred, transcending time, while remaining rooted in stone. Ultimately, temples as mandalas embody the union of art, science, and devotion. They are not merely buildings of worship, but sacred diagrams one can inhabit, walk through, and meditate within. The pilgrim who journeys through a temple is enacting a cosmic pilgrimage, moving from the outer to the inner, from the many to the one, from the transient to the eternal. Each step, each carving, each proportion contributes to this journey, guiding the soul through sacred geometry toward liberation. Temples are thus the greatest teachers of India's sacred geography, reminding all who enter that the universe is not distant but present here, inscribed in stone, mirrored in mandalas, and alive in the rhythms of pilgrimage. Part 7. The Cave of Amarnath, Ice, Shiva, and Silence. High in the Himalayas of Jammu and Kashmir lies the Cave of Amarnath, a place where myth, geography, and devotion converge in one of the most awe-inspiring pilgrimages of India. At nearly 900 meters above sea level, the cave is both remote and forbidding, accessible only during the brief summer months when snow recedes enough to allow passage. Within the cavern forms a natural ice lingam, believed to embody Shiva himself in his purest manifestation. Pilgrims see in the ice not only frozen water but eternal presence, the formless Lord taking shape in silence. The journey to Amarnath is not merely physical, but profoundly spiritual, for it demands endurance, humility, and faith, culminating in the vision of the ice lingam, where geography itself becomes an icon of divinity. The mythology of Amarnath elevates the cave beyond its physical isolation, into the realm of cosmic memory. Legends tell that Shiva chose this cave as the place to reveal the secret of immortality to Parvati. Seeking seclusion from all beings, he led her deep into the mountains, leaving behind Nandi, his bull, and releasing his serpent, his crescent moon, and even the sacred Ganga from his locks, so that no one would overhear. Only in the silence of the cave did he disclose the Amara Katha, the story of eternal life. Unbeknownst to him, 2 pigeons are said to have listened to this secret and became immortal, and pilgrims still claim to see them in the cave, symbols of eternity dwelling in stone and snow. The cave thus becomes more than a shelter. It is the stage of revelation, a womb of silence where the greatest truths are spoken. The ice lingam itself is a marvel of natural rhythm. Each year, as water from melting snow trickles into the cave and refreezes, the lingam waxes and wanes with the phases of the moon, reaching its fullest form during the month of Shravan. Devotees see in this rhythm the union of cosmic cycles and divine manifestation, a reminder that even the frozen form is alive with time. The lingam is flanked by smaller ice formations, identified as Parvati and Ganesha, completing the presence of Shiva's family within the cave. To behold the ice lingam is to witness the convergence of nature and spirit, a phenomenon where no sculptor's hand is required, for the elements themselves shape the symbol of divinity. The pilgrimage to Amarnath, known as the Amarnath Yatra, is among the most challenging in India. Pilgrims trek for days through rugged valleys, icy streams, and steep passes, braving cold winds and thin air. Traditional routes begin from Pahalgam or Baltal, winding through pine forests, meadows, and glaciers before reaching the cave. Along the way, pilgrims chant Bam Bam Bole in praise of Shiva, their voices echoing across the mountains. The journey demands physical hardship, but it is this very struggle that sanctifies the pilgrimage, for the pilgrim's effort mirrors the ascetic austerities of Shiva himself. To endure exhaustion, altitude, and chill is to purify oneself, to strip away comfort and approach divinity in humility. At the cave, silence reigns despite the throngs of devotees. The icy interior, dimly lit by lamps, evokes both awe and stillness. Pilgrims bow before the lingam, offering water, flowers, and prayers, though most feel words fall short before the frozen flame of presence. The silence is not emptiness but fullness, the silence of the Himalayas, the silence of Shiva in meditation. To stand in the cave is to feel the weight of eternity, a sense that here, time halts, and one is absorbed into the stillness that underlies all motion. Many describe the experience as beyond description, for the cave does not merely show Shiva, but immerses the pilgrim in his silence. Amarnath also reflects the intertwining of geography and mythology in Hindu sacred tradition. The cave's remoteness is not incidental but essential, for it embodies the seclusion of revelation, the withdrawal from worldly noise into divine stillness. The snow and ice signify purity and impermanence, yet the lingam endures each year as a reminder of eternal truth. The surrounding peaks and valleys themselves feel alive with presence, as if the land remembers the whispers of Shiva and Parvati. In this way, the geography of Amarnath is itself scripture, a text of stone and snow in which divine secrets are inscribed. The Amarnath Yatra also illustrates the communal dimension of pilgrimage. Pilgrims from every corner of India and beyond converge on the same path, their differences of language, caste, or region dissolved in the shared rhythm of chanting and walking. Local communities play a vital role in supporting the pilgrims, offering food, shelter, and guidance along the way. The mountain passes, though dangerous, become arteries of faith, carrying the pulse of devotion upward toward the cave. In this way, Amarnath becomes a point of unity, a place where the multitude gathers to share in the silence of one divine presence. The cave has also endured cycles of history, politics, and change, yet its sanctity persists. Despite challenges of access, weather, and conflict, the yatra continues, as if the very geography insists on renewal. For devotees, the hardships are part of the meaning, for the journey to immortality must pass through trial. The persistence of the pilgrimage reflects the resilience of faith, the conviction that beyond all turmoil lies the stillness of Shiva's cave. The ice lingam becomes both a fragile form, melting each year, and an eternal flame, reborn endlessly, reminding pilgrims that the eternal is present even in impermanence. In Hindu sacred geography, caves have long symbolized the womb of the earth, places of retreat where sages meditate and gods reveal themselves. Amarnath is perhaps the most powerful expression of this symbolism, for its womb houses the linga of Shiva formed not by hand but by nature itself. The pilgrim who enters the cave reenacts the journey into the heart, the descent into the self, where silence reveals truth. The cave thus becomes a mandala of stone and ice, guiding the pilgrim inward to the secret throne of Shiva. In the end, the cave of Amarnath stands as a reminder that the divine is not confined to temples of human making, but dwells also in the raw majesty of nature. Ice, mountain, silence, and myth converge here to create one of the holiest sites of pilgrimage, a place where Shiva whispers the secret of immortality to those who endure the path. To walk the yatra, to bow before the ice lingam, is to participate in a story older than memory, to join countless generations who have sought the eternal in the silence of snow. Amarnath is thus not only a cave but a revelation, a geography of ice where the fire of Shiva burns silently, forever. Part 8. Jyotirlingas, 12 Flames of Shiva Across the Land. Across the vast landscape of India, The 12 Jyotirlingas of Shiva form one of the most profound networks of sacred geography, shrines that together illuminate the land with the presence of the eternal. The word Jyotirlinga means linga of light, or pillar of radiance, recalling the story in which Shiva revealed himself as an infinite column of fire, without beginning or end, beyond measure. These 12 sites are believed to be the earthly abodes where that light became anchored, each shrine a flame of the cosmic fire burning across the subcontinent. For countless devotees, the Jyotirlingas are not separate temples but one radiance shining in 12 places, each linga a spark of the boundless. To undertake pilgrimage to them is to circle the body of Shiva himself, moving from flame to flame across India's sacred geography. The origin of the Jyotirlingas lies in a tale from the Shiva Purana, which describes a dispute between Vishnu and Brahma over supremacy. To resolve the contest, Shiva manifested as an endless column of fire, stretching beyond the grasp of either. Vishnu admitted defeat, but Brahma, claiming falsely that he had reached the top, incurred Shiva's wrath. From this infinite pillar emerged the 12 sites of radiance that became the Jyotirlingas, where devotees can still approach the ungraspable through earthly form. In this way, the Jyotirlingas are reminders of Shiva's formlessness and infinity, yet also his accessibility through worship. They are flames made stone, transcendent yet present. The 12 Jyotirlingas are spread across the length and breadth of India, each carrying a distinct myth and landscape. In Somnath, on the western coast of Gujarat, the first of the 12 shines by the Arabian Sea. Somnath has been destroyed and rebuilt many times, most famously by Mahmud of Ghazni, yet it continues to rise from ruin as if embodying the eternal resilience of Shiva himself. Here the waves strike the temple walls as pilgrims bow before the linga, seeing in it the first spark of the cosmic fire that spread across the land. Somnath is not only a shrine but a symbol of endurance, the flame that cannot be extinguished. To the south, on the island of Rameswaram, lies the Ramanatha Swami Temple, one of the holiest sites where Shiva is worshipped as a Jyotirlinga. According to the Ramayana, Rama himself installed the linga here and worshipped Shiva before crossing to Lanka, seeking forgiveness for the violence of war. The temple's long corridors and sacred wells add layers of ritual to the pilgrimage, as pilgrims purify themselves before approaching the linga. The site unites Vaishnavite and Shaivite traditions, for Rama's devotion to Shiva is a reminder that all paths converge at the flame of truth. The southern flame of Rameswaram thus illuminates devotion, penance, and reconciliation. In the Himalayas, the Kedarnath Jyotirlinga stands amidst snow and silence, one of the most remote and arduous shrines to reach. Nestled in Uttarakhand, Kedarnath is accessible only by trek or helicopter, yet pilgrims endure the hardships for the sanctity of the site. It is said that after the Kurukshetra war, the Pandavas sought Shiva to absolve them of their sins, and here the Lord manifested as a bull before sinking into the earth, leaving behind the linga as a reminder of his presence. Kedarnath is thus not only a shrine but a place of absolution, a flame that burns in the heart of the mountains, where earthly sins dissolve in divine fire. Another Himalayan flame burns at Kedarnath's twin, Kedarnath's southern sibling Omkareshwar, set on an island in the Narmada River shaped like the sacred syllable Om. Pilgrims see in this geography the manifestation of sound itself, the vibration of Aum made stone and river. The Omkareshwar Jyotirlinga embodies the eternal sound from which creation emerged, reminding devotees that the flame of Shiva is not only light, but also vibration, the resonance of the cosmos. To walk around the island is to circle the syllable itself, a pilgrimage through the geometry of sound. Each of the other Jyotirlingas carries a unique story. At Varanasi, the Kashi Vishwanath Jyotirlinga anchors the city where time dissolves, a linga believed to guarantee liberation to those who die in its presence. At Ujjain, the Mahakaleshwar Jyotirlinga represents Shiva as Lord of Time, whose fiery form consumes even death. At Bhima Shankar in Maharashtra, the linga is linked to the tale of the demon Tripurasura, slain by Shiva, and the temple rests amid forests where rivers rise. At Trimbakeshwar, also in Maharashtra, the linga is associated with the source of the Godavari, making the shrine both flame and fountain of life. At Baidyanath in Jharkhand, Shiva is worshipped as the great healer, the flame of medicine and renewal. At Nageshwar in Gujarat, Shiva is remembered as the protector against serpents, guarding devotees from poison and fear. At Krishneshwar near Ellora, the linga is linked to a tale of devotion and resurrection, where a woman's faith restored her child, and Shiva appeared in flame to bless her. Together, these 12 flames form a geography of radiance, mapping Shiva's presence across the land. From Gujarat's shores to Tamil Nadu's seas, from Uttarakhand's peaks to Odisha's plains, the Jyotirlingas create a sacred circuit that unites the subcontinent in devotion. Pilgrims who undertake the journey to all 12 are believed to gain ultimate liberation, for to circle the Jyotirlingas is to circle the body of Shiva, moving from flame to flame until one becomes light oneself. Each shrine is distinct, yet all are one, for the 12 are not separate fires but one fire refracted into 12 forms. The rituals at Jyotirlingas reinforce their role as flames of purification. Pilgrims offer water, milk, bilva leaves, and lamps to the linga, enacting the union of elements with the eternal fire. The linga itself, often an unadorned stone, embodies the formlessness of Shiva, yet when bathed and garlanded it radiates presence. Devotees see in the linga the pillar of fire described in the Puranas, the infinite axis that cannot be measured. To touch the linga is to touch the flame, to feel the radiance not with the eyes but with the soul. The temples themselves often echo this symbolism. Their towers rise like flames, their sanctums glow in darkness, and their rituals resound like sparks in the night. The Jyotirlingas also embody the paradox of permanence and impermanence. Temples like Somnath have been destroyed and rebuilt, yet the flame remains, as if reminding humanity that the divine cannot be erased. In Kedarnath, floods have ravaged the town, yet the linga endures untouched, standing as witness to the resilience of faith. These shrines remind pilgrims that, while forms may change, the flame of Shiva is eternal, burning across ages and calamities. In this way, the Jyotirlingas are not merely monuments of stone, but living fires, continually renewed by the devotion of those who come to them. The pilgrimage to the Jyotirlingas is also a journey across India's diverse geography, uniting mountain, plain, desert, forest, and sea. Each site embodies its landscape: Kedarnath's snow, Rameswaram's waves, Omkareshwar's river, Somnath's coast, Bhimashankar's forest. The flame of Shiva thus shines through nature itself, reminding pilgrims that divinity is not confined to temples, but burns in the elements. To walk the Jyotirlinga circuit is to encounter India's landscapes as sacred geography, where stone, water, air, and fire converge in devotion. The pilgrim who undertakes this journey becomes part of a greater mandala, moving through the land as through a body of flame. In the end, the 12 Jyotirlingas, as flames of Shiva, represent more than 12 temples. They are the radiance of the infinite made accessible, the boundless fire anchored in stone across the land. Each shrine is a reminder of Shiva's formlessness, yet also his presence, his willingness to dwell among his devotees. To visit them is to circle the compass of sacred geography, to walk from flame to flame until the self itself becomes light. For the pilgrim, the Jyotirlingas are both journey and destination, both geography and eternity, 12 flames burning across the land, yet all one fire shining forever.